Alright, maybe that'll be the last damn stop I have to make. Get it together, man. Hey, it's a learning thing. It wasn't loose, but I think I have one side pulled down a little bit tighter than the other, and it's causing it to kind of want to slide to that side with the extra weight that's in it. Maybe it's just all in my head. Probably more in my head than anything else. Live and learn, right? Oh. Still a nice night for a ride, though I said earlier I don't particularly care for riding at night, especially once I get off this flat down here and start heading up into the mountains where I live at, or the base of the mountain. That'll get cool. Let Billy go on here. Ooh, he's throwing off some wind. Come on, car. Oh, I love the sound of inline engines. That's one of my favorite things on motorcycles is inline engines. I prefer those over anything else. Though my dream bike, if I can't talk, my dream bike is actually a boxer engine. I still love the sound of inline, so inline 4s, this inline 6. Never been the biggest fan of twin engines, twin anything, parallel twin, V twin, L twin. And don't get me wrong, they're great. And those are torque monsters. They're great engines. They've been around for a long time, and they're the ones probably going to end up with the staying power in the long run. Everybody seems to be going back to the parallel twins, but there's something about that sound. And no, I don't do exhaust. I don't mess with that shit. Like, I just paid for this exhaust. Let me rip it off and spend $2,500 getting a good exhaust and tuned and everything else. And I know some of y'all buying them ones that say don't need any tuning, but the evidence I've seen says, yeah, you still need to tune it a little bit, but just throw a slip-on on there. I had one motorcycle that had loud exhaust on it. I bought it that way, used, and I knew the guy who owned it. He put that exhaust on there, and it sounded great. But I tell you what, me and him went on a 500-mile ride one day. That's the one and only time I was on the tail of the Dragon with him on that bike, and I had no business being on that bike on that road at the time. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I thought I did. But that after we rode that constant roaring and stuff like that, man, it gets to you after a while. But I'm kind of cheap too about it, like the whole thing about, like, well, I just paid for that exhaust, well, I'm gonna rip it off now. If I were to start this bike up or something has to exhaust on that place, absolutely I'll put exhaust on there. But the way things stand right now, nah, I'll just leave it stock. I'm kind of an OEM guy. Boring. I mean, think I could do the speed limit though. Got cruise control, man. Why don't you set it? It's because it's the middle of the night. Not like it's hard to touch the cruise control off. Just touch anything and it'll turn off. But yeah, the main place I'm catching wind is right up my arms and towards my armpits and stuff like that. That's a little chilly, but my legs are fine. My feet are fine. Hands, I'll probably end up turning these heated grips up a little bit more. Heated seats on already. Like I just turned it on to get some heat built up into it before I ever started moving. I don't really think I'm going to need it, but let's turn it up on high and see how it affects things anyway. I can always turn it back down. Still hard to believe though, it's freaking February and this is the second time me commuting on this bike already. I won't be commuting with it next week, it doesn't look like, because I'm going to come in on Friday a little early for a meeting. Friday it's supposed to be raining. Now, I'm not scared to ride a bike in the rain. I've been caught out in storms plenty of times, you know, but I will not intentionally leave in the rain. That's just not going to happen. But if I'm out and it starts raining, then no well. And I probably got caught out in the rain like 4 or 5 times last year. I'd check weather. Damn Weather Channel apps. All these weather apps are bullshit. They're just total crap. You know, like, no, it's not going to rain. Okay, this is where I'm going to, because that's where you need to know where the weather is where you're going. You know, nope, good. Get over here, massive thunderstorm chasing me across the mountain, all the way back down across the state. Posted that on my Facebook last year too. You know, just, you know, I'm up in the prime riding curves and having a good time on the GSA, and come around and all I see is a sheet of rain. I'm like, it wasn't on the other side of the mountain, it was on this side. Oh, it's crazy. I hope this view turns out good on a computer. I had one mount on here and it had the view I kind of wanted, but it was hanging a little bit low, and I accidentally broke the arm, the extension arm I was using, and I put this one on because it's the other one I had, and it's a little bit longer. From the back of the GoPro, because I haven't been home yet to see it, I looked at the footage I shot coming in, and it was pretty good. It looked like it was going to be okay, you know, maybe it just a touch more down. That one was down a little bit too low. I think this might be a touch a little bit more high. Like, you really can't see my hands on the handlebars if that's what you actually want to see for whatever reason, but at least you can see when somebody's working the controls and stuff. I know when I'm watching a video, watching guys talk about their bikes or riding their bikes, stuff like that, I kind of like watching their hand movements, and it'll tell you a lot about the bike just there if you know what you're looking for. Damn semis are just running me over. I'm being a little bit more on the cautious side. Just enjoy the ride, get there in one piece, be ready for something to jump out at you. You know, I drive plenty of semis and stuff, so I never really like it when a semi's by me or near me on a motorcycle. Well, yeah, some of these drivers just suck these days. Damn steering wheel holders, but tires blow out, they throw rocks. It could go real bad for you real quick around these damn dudes. So I just let them go. Either I let them go or I pass them with authority. One of the two. I don't ride beside them. I know me in a truck, because I ride motorcycles, I'm always very courtesy around motorcycles. You know, I give them plenty of space, a little bit more space than I actually need to. You know, try not to aggravate them and shit like that. You know, but it's also aggravating as a driver for anybody to sit on their corners and not let them go, or they always need a way out. Always. Of course, half these damn drivers, we can't keep them off their cell phones these days. Like, damn dude, you're driving 80,000 pound truck down the goddamn road and you're over texting on your fucking phone, watching stupid shit on there. It's like, dude, come on, seriously. If you can't walk and chew gum, you probably should. We should make that for people with cell phones. Like, okay, you can have a cell phone, but you can't have a driver's license if you can't walk and chew gum. Or if you ain't got enough common sense to put one of the two down at a time. And that ain't just truck drivers, that's everybody. But I was telling a guy the other day, it's like, man, people just, they can't drive. I was like, yeah, and half these guys that can't drive are driving trucks. He just kind of looked at me. That's what I think about it. Half these people you see going down the road, like, I go down the road on a motorcycle. I go down the road and think, but you don't think when that pickup truck's going by you, that's a truck driver that's in there. He's just not working at the moment. Like, think about it for a minute. He's like, well, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I said, and half these fuckers can't drive a car, and now they're driving a damn semi, and they're all over the damn place, crashing shit. Oh, there's Lawman. What's up, Lawman? Did y'all catch that dude on that motorcycle? Because, god damn, that boy was hauling ass. Or a girl, whatever. More likely a guy. You know, gotta feel like a badass somewhere in life, I guess. But on a cop chase, dude, they always get you. Eventually, they always do. You know, I've seen all these like guys on YouTube and shit do that shit, and eventually they get busted. Man, you know what the motorcycle needs? It needs auto tinting mirrors like you get in a car. That'd be awesome. Why not? For the price you're paying for some of these bikes like this one these days. Dude, are you seriously pulling out right here as I'm getting up on you? Yeah, he seriously is. Another guy who can't drive. Tow truck drivers, bus drivers. Yeah, he's just gonna pull on out. In that situation, I can either try to veer in front of that SUV that was coming up on me, or I can just brake it and let him go. Like I said, especially at nighttime, just err on the side of caution, man. Whatever you do, it just ain't worth it. But he can't say he didn't see me coming. And the damn headlight up there, fog lamps running. He's pulling out like that just because he's not paying attention. Yeah, heated grips are working actually really, really great. They're almost to the point of like almost stinging my hands. The thing needs is like something out here to block the wind from hitting the outside of your hands, and then you'd have something. So I'm sure they got something. I seen a dude one time come rolling to a BMW dealership. He had these things that looked like he took sleeves out of a big thick jacket, you know, like something very canvas with a lot of insulation, and just tied them off to his handlebars and put his hands up in there. And he come rolling in there that day. Man, it was like, that was up in Fredericksburg Motorsports. It was like 2 degrees outside that day. I couldn't believe he was in on a motorcycle. I'm like, that's just hardcore, man. My biggest problem with it is the air coming up into your helmet. Like, you can do a lot to block it, but there's still a little gap there. It's going to breathe, and that's always going to let that cold air in. I just don't like that. Just ain't as tough as they used to be. Happens to all of us. Here comes that same wrecker in such a fucking hurry. Thanks for almost cutting out in front of me, dude. Probably just repoed that shit. So I didn't quite catch the tag on it. I don't think it was a North Carolina tag, so maybe it was just broke down. I can't wait to get off this road. Been through this road a couple of times this week. Not a big fan. Like, I don't really like Greensboro. Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm glad the city's there and it's close enough to me that anything I need to get, I can pretty much get. And it's, you know, it's thriving. And, you know, it's good for property values and, you know, the house we bought and stuff like that. So, but there's some fundamental design flaws here. It really is. Like, you need to go ahead and finish that beltway and shit. Which I could have went up that other road and went the back way, and I probably will end up doing that a time or two when they doing construction this year. Just take the scenic route, but my exposure to wildlife is going to be a little bit less on the route I'm going. You know, it's also a little bit more direct, and it's a little bit on the chilly side. Let's see what the temperature is. It's one thing. Let's see, temperature is 53.6 degrees. I generally keep that setting on tire pressure. You want to see that down there or not? Tire pressure went back down to 41. It got up to 42, went back down to 41. It's just air temperature changing it. But I generally keep it on tire pressure. That way, if I pick up a nail or something, and I'll see it going down and give myself that little bit better of a chance. But then again, you know, generally when you do pick up a nail or something like that, you pretty much feel it pretty instant. You know, you'll feel the bike ticking along, whatever. All right, dude, are you gonna pass me? You know, I'm just gonna let him go. Go on, dude. I'm trying to let you go. I didn't slow down to 50 and you're slowing down with me. Because you're a fucking moron. See, I'm being ultra conservative where 99% of people would have just gave it full throttle and pulled out in front of him and went on. But the reason they don't is because when they try to be nice and let everybody go, oh, what are they slowing down for? Let me see. Maybe because we want you to go the fuck on. Get on down the damn road, you idiot. I do like this bike's headlights at nighttime. I can actually see with them. That's great. I've had some couple bikes weren't so great. The worst one I had though, hands down, was that Honda CBR 650F, which is now known as the Honda CBR 650R with a different front fairing on it and a different headlight. And that was the #1 complaint about that bike. Everybody's like, man, that engine is great. That engine's so much fun, and it was. As far as engines go that I've had on motorcycles, that inline 4 at 650 inline 4 was just smooth. It was fun. It was torquey. You know, it wasn't super fast, crazy speeds, which I can't do anyway. But it had a lot of grunt to it, and just had an amazing sound. Loved riding that bike. And I told my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I was like, you know, that I only wanted to ride that bike during the day. I'd never get rid of that bike, and I miss that bike. I miss that bike a lot. That was one of my favorite sport bikes I ever had. And Honda kept, telling us, oh, everybody's complaining about the headlight. Headlight sucks. Headlight sucks. Headlight sucks. That damn Cyclops fucking headlight. Even on a high beam, I bought my wife an R3 at the time. The R3 had better headlights, hands down. Motorcycle half the price, and you can see for days on that. Mine on a high beam was like her low beam. And we had a guy living with us at a time, he was getting divorced and was helping him out and stuff, and he had a Ninja 650. Dominated that bike in the one category. We had a lot of fun when that dude had that 650 and I had that CBR, man. We had a lot of fun riding together. Those were two pretty equal bikes that, give the hand to the speed and a little bit of torque to the inline 4 on the CBR, but everything else, give it to the Kawasaki. And the Kawasaki Ninja 650 is still probably the best starter motorcycle ever, if not one of the best motorcycles that was ever built. I don't care who you are. If you've been riding for 30 years or you've been riding for 2 minutes, you'll love that bike. It's just a lot of fun. It's over, not super heavy, about 420, 430 pounds. I forgot the weight of it, but he was getting 50, 60, I think he was getting around 50, 51 miles to the gallon. I was getting about 49, 50 out of the CBR. Now I did like the inline 4, my own personal preference, a little bit better, but the 650 Ninja set a little bit lower in the cockpit. You set them a little bit more upright, and that bike was just, man, that's still one of the best bikes ever. And I know they got different versions of that bike, the Nakeds and stuff like that, and I'm sure those bikes are awesome. That 650 engine's been around forever. It's only went through like 3 facelifts in over 20 years, so it does really, really good. Like, and it's just one of those bikes you can just have fun with. I think they use that, I know they use it on the Kawasaki Vulcan 650, because my wife had that bike, that little cafe racer. That's the same engine, but the way they gear it and time it, it's not as smooth. It's really chunky at low speeds, like when you're just like trying to put around in first gear and make corners, stuff like that. Like you just touch throttle, the torque almost like throws you through that. And when I rode it on the Ninja version with a higher gearing in the transmission, it just felt like it was a lot more smooth. I think they use that engine in the Versys 650 as well, so they've used the hell out of that engine, and it's time tested and proven. And then they give you the LED turn signals, and the headlight wasn't LED, but they gave you a better headlight. All the turn signals are LED. It's just a great motorcycle, for the cost. I'd sit there and keep blowing Kawasaki all night long. But yeah, that's probably, if somebody asked me today what is the best beginner motorcycle, Kawasaki 650. Pick your flavor. They're all easy to ride. That's a great engine. It's plenty fast enough. You won't get bored with it in a couple months. It just rocks. I don't think that, and I can't say not to do it, because I actually met a guy who did it. And this bike, he had this motorcycle. I was up there getting this bike serviced, and he was in there getting his bike serviced, and I sat there chit-chatting with him in his very first motorcycle, BMW K1600B. He didn't have the Grand America model with the top case. And I was like, really, man, how you digging it? He's like, man, I love it. I was like, really, you're starting on that? He's like, yeah, I took the MSF course. I wanted that bike, and I went and bought it. I was like, yeah, what service are you getting done? He's like, oh, I'm at my 26,000 mile service. Like, what? Dude was living on this bike, loving every minute of it. He's like, yeah, I dropped it, but, it'd be all right. I'm like, well, here's the thing about drops is, everybody's, it ain't even matter if you're going to drop one. You're going to drop a motorcycle, and I've dropped more. If you haven't dropped a motorcycle, I've dropped enough of them to cover you. Don't worry about it, but it's still going to happen to you. Hell, I dropped this motorcycle. 20-some years of riding. I went years without dropping a motorcycle, and damn it, one day I just, over I went. Shit happens, but it was a little drop. And when guys are trying to sell them and say, oh, it was a parking lot drop, I was sitting still, and you see the scrape marks going one way. Like, no, dude, no, you were moving. You're full of shit. You crashed. There's a big difference. But yeah, that dude was just unreal. Now, the first motorcycle I had, a friend of mine, a really good friend, I consider a brother, helped me get that motorcycle. It was actually his bike, and that was a Kawasaki Vulcan 1500. and that bike was freaking as heavy as this one, and I'm learning how to do it. So I understood where the guy was coming from. You know, probably had a better bike than I did to learn how to ride. You know, that bike that I bought, it had the Vance and Hines Phase 3 pipes on it, K&M filter, jet kit put in it. You know, carbs turned down really low, so you really had to play with the throttle. Where like this bike here, like and most of these bikes now, especially anything throttled by wire, you know, you start giving the clutch out a little bit, it'll automatically rev the bike up just to 200 or 300 RPMs for you. Man, I dropped that bike, and like they kept telling me, put my feet down, put my feet down. It's that they thought I was dropping it because I wasn't putting my feet down, but I was only trying to put my feet down. They didn't realize I'd already stalled it out and was trying to gather it back up. I was trying to refire the bike while I was still rolling to get it going. Oh, but man, I love that bike. I had so much fun, you know, just being on a motorcycle, and thanks to my really good friend who you know went through a lot of trouble so I could get that bike. But he wanted that Honda Valkyrie that was out at the time, you know, that rolling RV. I used to make fun of him and call that bike his you know, that's not a motorcycle, man, that's a two-wheeled RV. And it kind of is. He still has that bike to this day though, and that was 2001, 2002. I think it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2001 going to 2002, because I moved out of there and sold that bike in 2003. And I know I had one really good season on that bike. So, but yeah, that Valkyrie, he's still rolling, and I think he's got a Harley Davidson goes with it. You know, he got a really good deal on that bike that he wanted, so he always wanted a Harley. So hey, man, knock yourself out. You'll probably never see me on a Harley Davidson, and nothing against the brand, and I don't pick and shit like that. Like I used to joke around online and stuff like that, because I mean, sorry, the guys who ride Harley Davidson, there's a stigma around you, and if you go back in the origins of the brand and where it came from, and there's reasons why, and some of it's actually true, but it's just like, I'm a performance guy, so if you're showing me stuff on paper, okay, this is my bang for my buck, this is what I'll get here, that's what I'll get there. And maybe it's one of those things, maybe, you know, I got pretty much everybody I went to high school with that's on a motorcycle for any amount of time, but the ones that are serious about that, they have Harley Davidson, man. They love them V-twins, and they love that thumping, and they love that vibration for whatever fucking reason. You know, I'm a performance guy. This bike here, for what I paid for it, what you will pay for this bike, brand new, you can buy pretty much any Harley Davidson you want. You might have to add a little for some of their models and all their creature comforts and all that stuff, but it's in the ballpark. You know, you're in that 25,000 plus category, you know, to where like you don't buy this bike unless you're fucking serious about owning this bike. And when it comes to actually riding them and putting real miles on them and stuff like that, you know, that real practicality, like this is how this bike performs, I mean, Harley just isn't there. They're trying, you know, they're trying to get away from their base a little bit and bring out new things. That new Pan America caught my eye a little bit, you know, that new Sportster. You know, if they put that exhaust in a different place, I mean, I probably would have bought that bike. I probably would have. You know, I like that they made a lighter V-twin engine, which is one of my problems. V-twins are extremely heavy for what you get out of them, you know, performance-wise and stuff like that. And it's a lot smoother because they built the frame around the engine, so you don't get all that super high vibration and shit like that. And I know some of these guys are just like, hey, man, vibration's part of it, man. That's part of it. Okay, well, you know, well, you know, if you like to vibrate, sure, okay, not my thing. You know, that's one of the problems I had with that Kawasaki Vulcan, that V-twin that was in it. That bike, if you got it up to 85, 90 miles an hour, you could literally feel your eyeballs shake. You couldn't see shit. It was insane, the vibration out of that bike. You know, and a lot of those V-twins that got really, really crappy fuel mileage. I don't know how these more modern ones are. I don't know how the Harley Davidson ones are. But that Vulcan only got like 13 miles to the gallon, even if you weren't running it hard. It just ate a lot of fuel and stuff like that. And people will ask me, and I've actually had another friend get pissed off at me about the subject. He's like, man, I bought motorcycles. Not one time did I ever consider fuel. And I said, I did because of that bike. He goes, what do you mean? And and I was like, well, you know, at the time, I'd been married, divorced, I was under bankruptcy, and I just got past the bankruptcy. My credit was shit, And the only reason I got that bike is because a really good friend, a dude I consider a brother, helped me out. But I couldn't afford that bike at the time. Like, I shouldn't have had it, but damn it, after all I've been through, I was just like, man, I just want something for the past 3 to 4 years where I had nothing. I was homeless, living in a semi for 2 of those years. Everything I owned I could put in 7 trash bags in the bed of my pickup truck. And I literally lived and slept on people's couches for 2 years of my life. So when I finally had a chance to just have something, you know, I got that motorcycle. I said the bitch about it was, though, because the fuel mileage was so shitty, I couldn't afford to ride it. And I made up my mind then, if I can't afford to have it, I'm not going to have it, because it just drove me nuts. You know, I was making payments on it, and, you know, that was killing me on riding it. So one of the things I started looking into after that motorcycle was like, okay, I want to get fuel mileage out of this. If, you know, if I only got $5 to spend, you know, how much fun can I have with this motorcycle? And that's one of the things I tell people about motorcycles that beats like all other hobbies that you can even have, is, you know, bang for a buck on your enjoyment factor. If you really love doing it, you know, you get something like that Yamaha R3 for $5, you'll ride for 2 days if you do it right. You will never put fuel in that thing. Bikes like this one gets 42 miles to the gallon. Well, it's a hell of a lot better to get to 42 than it is to 13. You know, there's things like I thought about. Like, I won't own anything now. If I can't use it and enjoy it because I'm making payments on it, fuck it, I don't want it. It needs to go. It's just flat out, it's gotta go. I don't want anything to do with anything like that. I've been there and done that. If I can't afford to have fun with it, then screw it. Life is just too short, because I've been there and done that. I would get a little cute on this turns a little bit, but cool time of night, warm today, might be a little slick. I've got plenty of heat in the tires. It shouldn't be a problem, but this is when you're in a vehicle and you're trying to do this speed right here, everything in your vehicle just slides over to one side. Like, you really start feeling grip, like you're like, damn, how good are my tires type thing. But, you know, but here I am doing 55 on the bike. It's like, yeah, we can do 70. No problem. It wouldn't be a problem to do 70 through here easily. And that's on this big-ass bagger. You come around on a sport bike, you can probably drag me on that turn doing about 130. No problem. It's just a fun turn. You know, but this will be a start where it starts getting cold at it. Like, as soon as you come out of this and you start going up the fucking hill a little bit. Oh, well, you know. My wife, we was trying to get out of the cold as much as we could. We were compromising a little bit. Be close enough to the mountains, like it's great. Now we used to have to ride an hour to an hour and a half to even start touching any turns. And that was just like point and shoot, man. Just ride straight along. And then by the time you, especially in the summertime, you're already getting hot and nasty. By the time you start to get to the mountains, you're like, yeah, fuck this, I'm ready to go back. Now we're like literally like 2 minutes. We're in turns, twisty fun, you know, lovely where we're living at. Well, had we come down the road another, 15, 20 miles, you know, we wouldn't get as much cold air as what we're getting now. We was joking about that. It's like, well, we almost had it. Well, it's compromised, you know. I get this, but I'm giving up that. You know, it's a place I really wish I'd lived years ago. I wish I'd have made the decision and things would have worked out in a way so we could have done things years ago like that. But, you know, sometimes you can't play your hand till you're dealt your cards, and once the cards got dealt and we got a chance to do it, we did it, and we ain't looking back. It don't even sound like we're even interested in moving anywhere else. And I thought we'd be here for a while and keep this house and rent it out and go somewhere else when we bought it. But me and her's kind of in the same things, like, yeah, we're let's just stay here, we're good, you know, good enough. And I've always loved living in North Carolina. When I lived here years ago, that's when I had the Vulcan, and then I sold it and moved to Virginia. Then the next bike I had was the Kawasaki Boulevard 800. And that was a bike that was like, they described it in an ad like, look, ma, no hands. And that's exactly how that bike was, man. You had a heel toe shifter on it, floorboards. You know, it was great. It was fun. Torquey bastard. Did about 47, 48 miles to the gallon on it. The problem with that bike was, though, like, that was really before the 6-speed transmissions came out. And that bike, every time, it never felt, I'd be doing 55 miles an hour in 5th gear. I go, okay, timed up shift, and there's no more gear. No more gear on that bike. That was always the problem with it, which I don't know how it is now. I know they still make that bike. I think they call it the C50. the Boulevard C50. That was the second bike I had. You know, that's I got to ride a lot of motorcycles and stuff like that, different ones, and got my flavor. But I've owned, see, I had the Vulcan 1500, then I went half size to the C50 800, which that bike really taught me a lot about riding, especially turning motorcycles around and stuff like that. I did drop that bike one time, where I dropped that Vulcan like 400 times. Then I went a couple years without a motorcycle, just things in life, situation, and didn't really have a place for it and stuff like that, and I missed it the whole time. But then that's when I owned a boat and a four-wheeler and all that shit. Then things changed in that situation. I went out and bought that Honda 650F, and I kind of wish I could have kept that bike in a way. Like, even if I only rode it during the day, that bike was so much fun. You know, I really missed that bike, and I had that for a while, and then Honda said, oh, we're gonna quit making a 600RR, which is the bike I almost bought instead of that 650F. And that was a 2016 with that black and white paint job, man. And that bike, oh, that bike's so gorgeous. I would just go out in the garage and sit there and clean that bike every weekend. That was like the end of my week thing to do. Rode it or not, I was cleaning that bike. Those rooms were spotless. You know, the bike was spotless. The bike was just gorgeous. I just loved it, with Showa forks and Brembo brakes, and I mean, the bike just looked so good. And that's when my wife, you know, had her accident at work. And that's when I really started having problems in my wrists and stuff like that. And I don't care what you say about putting your weight on the tank and all this other stuff. I was having a problem towards my elbow, and my wrist and to my elbow. There's a ligament there that goes in your ring finger, and it was just killing me just pulling in the clutch. And I went on a ride, and I was lifting weights and working out all the time too, and I had a lot of tendonitis. I went on a ride with friends of mine, and I was literally having to hold this handlebar as hard as I could with my right hand and just cupping my left hand to let the clutch out. I couldn't actually move my fingers at a stoplight. I was like, man, this just flat out dangerous. And the sad part is that, like, I only put like 1,600 miles on that motorcycle, and that's when my wife got hurt, and she was like, well, why don't you sell that and get something that you can ride me on, because it was looking like she wasn't gonna be able to ride ever again. And that was very sad in itself. So I sold that bike, waited, and I had her R3, and I could ride it, but I just wasn't interested. I took that bike out one day, and I actually got scared. Not scared of riding a motorcycle or anything like that. It was, well, kind of like that, but it was a different type of scare. Like, I was going to go ride it up in the mountains and stuff like that, because that was still, you know, even that little bike had plenty of torque and speed, you know, to have fun with. Just that they're banging the gears out and stuff. But I got to thinking that, you know, if I just had this eerie feeling come over. It's like, you know, if you get hurt, you're both down now. You both can't be hurt at the same time. And I just turned around. I turned the bike right there around. I drove back an hour back to our house at the time we had there at the time, and I parked it. And I was like, nah, I'm just, and I not excused out. I was like, yeah, I'm just not really interested in riding that bike, and, you know, and all this other stuff. So we let that one go. And then about almost a year went by, and she knew I missed riding, and she started encouraging me to go buy a motorcycle, and I started going out to look for a motorcycle that I could carry her on the back. Even if she couldn't ride anymore, I'd at least get her on the back of one, and that's how this bike came to be. After we sold the R3, we bought this bike, and actually have flat floorboards put on it, and actually she worked it out in a deal with the dealer, and it's hard to negotiate anything with a BMW dealer. It just doesn't happen. But she worked it out, and these floorboards in the back were $300 fucking dollars. They're not $300 pieces of metal, in my opinion, but that's what you're going to pay for them, especially on a BMW. And when I was picking this bike out, I actually went and rode the GS1250 that I always wanted, that I have now. That was my first choice, but it wasn't the best bike to double somebody on. It wasn't the best bike for us. And it came down between this bike that I'm on now and the Goldwing, and I test rode all three of them in the same day. And I'm a big Honda fanboy. I've owned lots of Hondas, really dig them. And I ended up taking this one because I always wanted a BMW, and a couple other reasons, little small reasons, splitting hairs. Then she worked it out with the dealer to get the floorboards, but they were $300. He paid 200 of them. We paid 100 of them. And it was a legitimate deal. It was ordered offline. It wasn't off one of his special websites or anything, because their shit didn't have it. And we rode this bike for a while. She could be on it for a super long time with the condition she was in and stuff like that, but it was at least got her back on there and made her feel good for a little bit. That's perfect windshield. I guess it is all the way up. Me starting to get cold, I'm starting to crunch down on it like, oh my god, is that windshield big enough? And if I was on my GS right now, I'd be freezing my ass off. There's nowhere near the wind protection on that bike that there is on this. And I ain't even doing the speed limit, man. It's like doing 60 and a 65. But I'm taking my time and enjoying it, running my mouth and trying not to be too distracted. And somebody can make the argument, well, you're talking into a microphone thinking about shit. Well, I'm doing this shit regardless of whether I'm saying it out loud or not. You know, in truck driving, when they teach you how to truck drive, they teach you commentary driving. You're talking about everything. You're looking at it like, okay, I'm doing 60 miles an hour. I'm doing 2,500 RPM. Look at the left mirror, look at the right mirror. See what's coming up here. Oh, that's coming up. Their car's coming towards me. Blah, 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 blah. And you just do that forever, but they teach you that to be aware. So it's something after 25 years of doing, I'm pretty embedded in doing. I just don't say it out loud anymore. But I'm constantly thinking about shit, because I spend my life out on the fucking highway. And people kind of wonder sometimes, like, well, man, why the fuck do you want to ride motorcycles for? You spend all your time. I generally take the motorcycle where I can't take the truck. That's why I ride motorcycles. I love driving. Driving was my hobby. Driving was my getaway. Like, when we were kids and stuff, like, getting your driver's license was your first chance at fucking freedom. Even though I didn't have a vehicle to drive, I wanted that driver's license. And once I finally got, you know, my own vehicle and stuff, man, I was always on the road. I did not want to be sitting there stagnant anywhere. I just wanted to go. And then I started doing it for a living, and that really killed that. You know, like, it's just really hard to, and you know, when you make your hobby your job, it really fucks it up. You know, you do get burned out on it. But I could take a motorcycle and go where I can't go in a truck. I can go see things where, like in a truck, like, you know, I went to New York City probably 30-40 times in a year. Well, that's not sightseeing. Yeah, I've been to New York City, but did I do anything there? No. You know, I've been to Las Vegas. Did I do anything there? No. I've been to all these damn cities. Do anything there? No. I just sat there and saw it from the back of the windshield sitting on the highway. You're not stopping. Like, people think when you're driving trucks, like, oh yeah, you go here, you go there, you can do this, you get it. No, you don't. You're stuck to that truck. You're not going anywhere away from that truck. I mean, you can possibly work it out a little bit, but if you're trying to make money, you're not doing it. You know, I have people say that. It's like, well, if you're ever in this area, you know, let me know. I'll come out and see you. Well, the problem is, you don't understand. I'm working. I'm up against that clock. Once I hit start on that day, that clock's ticking. So if I sit there and talk to you for an hour, that's an hour pay I'm going to lose. It's one thing if you get stopped somewhere for the night and you're like in the area, you go, hey, yeah, but generally by the time that happens, people are already done in bed anyway, so to anybody, your friends or stuff like that, drive truck for a living, and you know, give them that little bit of courtesy and understand, like, hey man, they're not being rude, they gotta go. Definitely feeling that temperature drop a little bit. Let's see, it was 57 a while ago. Let's see where we're at now. 48.2. And then go 5 miles north of it. I swear there's just like a line right there. One thing about riding a motorcycle, you come in tune with the weather quick. Oh hell, I didn't put it back on tire pressure. Let's put that back on tire pressure. That's one thing I like about the GSA, that all digital dash is just a touch better. You get a lot more information at one time. Well, of course, this bike now, if you bought this bike today, it'd have an all digital dash, you get that too, so. We're just taking a nice little cruise home. It was a great ride in. I really enjoyed the ride in. It kind of peps me up a little bit too, man. I put a really good hard work weekend getting it done, laying that money down. But you know, I got to start sitting there thinking about, we finally, after being there for a year, we finally did get a storage shed. Last year was the craziest year on trying to get things done and line up and stuff. You know, Kathy's dad got sick, and that you know, spent a lot of time up there, going back and forth up there, and she was pretty much staying up there. And then we just bought the house and did all this stuff to it, you know, to make it our home. So we finally got a storage shed. Now I got to build a ramp for it. which I think she mapped everything out to do it, stuff like that. But I'm like the worst freaking carpenter ever. I am literally the guy, I can measure it 15 times. They say measure twice, cut once. Dude, I measured it 15 times, I still cut it wrong. I just do not have that skill. I can back a truck into angles and get them into places that have people come out to me and go, hey man, how the hell did you do that? And not think anything of it, but I can't cut a piece of wood to save my life. You know, I guess everybody's got their version of kryptonite. Oh, it just sucks. I'm actually looking forward to the reduced speed ahead zone. Like, man, it's starting to get a little chilly. So I'm a little bit better than I was there 2 weeks ago when I did this, but not by much. Not by much. I mean, I think it got down to, by the time I got there last time, it was like 41. You know, it wasn't good. But like the Scorpion jacket that I use, it's just an outer shell. It, you know, it gives you a lot of like rain protection and stuff like that, but there's no liners in it, and you really need those liners. I'm just trying to dress, you know, in a way that I can accommodate both. I wish I'd have bought the other version of this jacket that had the liners where you can take the thermal liners in and out and stuff like that. You know, I had a particular thought at the time, and it hasn't quite worked out the way I hoped it would, but oh well. When it wears out, I'll buy something else. You know, I wish two things. Like, one, I wish they would make normal jackets that people wear, like motorcycle jackets, like the features and stuff they put in, like the thermal liners, the rain liners, 900 zippers everywhere, let air flow through, or seal it all off tight. They just don't seem to do that in regular coats, or if they do, then you're paying like $500–600 for them, and you get like a $200 or $300. Hell, actually, you can get like a built jacket that's like $110 a hat. It's all that it built into it, and they're really nice to have. So that's one thing like that. And the other part of that is, I kind of wish that when we built like motorcycle jackets and stuff like that, we didn't have to charge. Like, man, if you've seen the price of a Klim jacket, K-L-I-M, like, you know, the base one, some of them start like $700–800. The one that I want today makes $1,100. I just can't justify $1,100 for a coat. Like, that better be the Mac Daddy of all fucking motorcycle jackets. I better be able to use that damn thing now until I die. I just don't see the value in it, but guys that have them and love them and stuff like that. I generally stay in motorcycle gear about the middle shelf areas. You know, I've dealt with some Alpine Star stuff. Like, most of their stuff doesn't fit me well. These gloves, these SP1 gloves, I've had them for like 7 years now, and they're worn out. I really should replace them. But they ain't got too many holes in them yet. Like, in the places that matter, they're not good. It's just some of the protectors there are starting to come loose, and they've been great. But I've had Alpine Star jackets like the size that fits me in the chest wise, it's just like way too long on my arm. So when I put a glove on stuff, you're trying to bunch up leather, and the problem is motorcycle gear, it has to fit perfectly to work. If it's not in the right spot, you're wasting your time. Another good reason to kind of stay thin and stay in shape is because you want that, you need that. But this jacket I got on, Scorpion, I had their leather jacket, it was great. I made a mistake of letting it go when I sold the sport bike, because I needed a more upright jacket. The sport bike jackets are kind of curled in and stuff needs you there, but I should have kept that jacket. And this is the Scorpion jacket I got now. It's really good. I got a pair of their textile pants. A lot of stuff I bought has been Scorpion. Like, they're middle of the shelf. You get a lot of bang for your buck. They're right there with like Icon. Icon's really middle of the road now. You know, so those things work really good. Hell, I don't even know if this thing's even recording now. Yep, it still is. I seen the red light. Like, I brought extra battery so I could change the battery out, but I didn't bring another memory card. But when I came into work, I kind of backed it off a little bit when I started recording at and stuff like that, which my ride's in just, and I'm just enjoying everything. I'm not really much for talking at this point in time. And here I am just sitting there riding home, just running my mouth like nobody's business. Oh, I'm so glad we got down to a 55. It's getting a little chilly. Oh man. I gotta start really watching for the. I do see a lot of deer up here in the middle of the night. Even nearby all these businesses and stuff. They'll come out here through the edge. You know, but I always say you're going to battle one of two things out on the road. You're either going to battle the wildlife or you're going to battle the people. And I actually prefer the wildlife. They're a little bit more predictable than the people. A little bit smarter too. Except for they will step right in front of a 60-mile-an-hour vehicle with the headlights on and the horn blowing. Yeah, I stole that joke. But it's true. It's funny because it's true. Some star cycle thing. I swear I've seen something. I keep saying every time I see that sign I drive by it twice every 5 days. You know, I keep saying I'm gonna look that up because there was a channel on YouTube. They were getting used motorcycles and they would like review them, and I was watching that for a while just to see the different bikes because I don't care. I'm, you know, even if I'm not going to buy the motorcycle, I still might be interested in what it's about, what the manufacturer's got in mind and stuff. And I swear it's that place. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I swear it's that place. I'm like, hell, if that's that guy that's on YouTube, man, he's right fucking there. I gotta stop by and say hi to him. Been a long time since I watched that channel. I don't even remember how I got across that channel. I think I know. Yep, I take it back. I know how I come across that channel because I was watching a lot of reviews about the Honda Goldwings at the time, and he had one of the newer ones that had just come out and was reviewing it. And that was, you know, the redesign, the 2000. I think it was 2018 they redesigned that bike. So because it had to be because 2019 I was buying this bike and I rode that bike and that Honda Goldwing and that pearl white metallic. Oh. My wife hated that white. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The one I test rode was that bike. And that was kind of funny too when I test rode because they're really not supposed to let you test ride them unless you go meet certain criteria. And one of those criteria was you had motorcycle insurance. Well, I didn't have a bike at the time, so why the hell would I have motorcycle insurance? But the salesman was really trying to sell me that bike. He's like, yeah, go ahead and take it out. You know, and here I 45, 50 minutes with the damn thing. They were starting to sweat like, oh, he was scared to death I didn't crash that bike. But I was just having a good time with it. You know, like, damn, I always thought these things would be a beast to ride.